The midpoint is one of the most important parts of a story, but it can also be one of the most confusing. Today I want to shed some light on it, so stick around. By the way, my name is Brandon McNulty. I'm the author of Bad Parts, also the author of Entry Wounds, and welcome to my writing channel. A couple years ago I did a video on The Mandalorian, and I talked about the early episodes and how at the midpoint or 50% mark of each episode, there was a moment where the main character of Mando would make some sort of choice and he would become more likable and more interesting as an anti-hero. And since then I really haven't talked too much about the midpoint on my channel. I've covered it in a few episodes here and there, but today I wanted to devote some time to understanding the midpoint and mastering it, because most recently I was reading this great book called Into the Woods. It's by John York, and he devotes 2 entire chapters to the subject of the midpoint, and he goes really in-depth into it, and it was something I hadn't really seen in a lot of writing guides, and some of the information in this book was like a mind blow for me, so I wanted to share it with you today. But right off the bat, I want to give a basic overview of what the midpoint is. And obviously, it's the 50% mark of your story. It happens right smack dab in the middle of your plot, and usually this is where a new piece of information is learned. The hero uncovers some piece of evidence that allows them to catch the killer, or maybe the hero learns something about themselves that enables them to pursue their goal or to overcome their flaw or whatever it is. Another thing with the midpoint is that characters usually become proactive after it, and this is because they gain some piece of information that enables them to attack their goal. And then one last thing to keep in mind with the midpoint is that this is a moment where the stakes are raised. There's going to be more danger from here on out, and the midpoint is that key moment where things get serious. Okay, now that we've got the basics down, I want to talk about John York's approach to the midpoint. And there's a lot of great information in this book, but I want to talk about 3 specific things that really impressed me. The first thing he says is that the midpoint is a moment where the protagonist obtains either a treasure, an elixir, or a key piece of knowledge. So we already talked about getting that key piece of information, but sometimes at the midpoint you will get a treasure, and usually this is an item that enables the hero to accomplish their goal. In the middle of Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones finds the Ark of the Covenant. That is the midpoint of the story, and that's a key item that enables him to defeat the Nazis. Another thing the protagonist may obtain at the midpoint is an elixir, and this is a truth that enables the character to heal their flaw. Oftentimes we have characters who suffer from a flaw, they're dealing with it early on in the story, and then at that midpoint they find some sort of truth that enables them to overcome that flaw by the end of the story. And then finally the protagonist may obtain a key piece of knowledge that enables them to solve a problem. Think about in a detective story, a murder mystery, you have a detective who finds a key piece of evidence at the midpoint, and that evidence enables them to either figure out who the killer is or where the killer is hiding or whatever it may be. The second thing John York says about the midpoint is that it's a moment of major character change, and this is because a new truth dawns on the hero for the first time, and the hero will embrace a new belief, a new attitude, or a new self. And oftentimes, when they find that new truth, it helps them redefine who they are. And a great example of this comes from Godfather 1. If you remember, at the middle of the movie, Michael Corleone, who up till this point has been this clean-cut guy, he's out of the military, he never got involved in the family business, didn't want anything to do with the mob. At the midpoint of the story, he goes full gangster, he shoots Salazzo, he shoots McCluskey, and this redefines who he is as a person. He is a very different Michael Corleone from this point on. And then the third thing that John York says, and I really love this one, John York says that at the midpoint, protagonists are given a powerful drug, but not the knowledge to use it properly. And what this means is that at the midpoint, once that protagonist gets the new piece of information, the new truth, whatever it is, that new piece of information is eye-opening to them, and it's exhilarating to them. But they don't know how to use it properly. They're going to struggle with it, and that's the whole purpose of the second half of the story. Yes, there's going to be some change at that midpoint, but the character doesn't complete their change. They're still grappling with that new information and learning how to use it properly, and that's what the second half of the story is about. And also here, there's going to be a risk-reward ratio. The character gains something important, but it also ramps up the danger around them. The stakes are raised. If you think about in Godfather 1, after Michael Corleone kills those people, he gains power, but it comes at a cost because now enemies are going to target him and his family. Alright, now one last thing I want to talk about with this book is that there are 2 types of midpoints according to John York. He says that there are 3-dimensional midpoints and two-dimensional midpoints. Now, what a three-dimensional midpoint is, this is a midpoint where a character embraces change. A character begins to discover who they really are, they learn how to heal or destroy themselves at the midpoint, things like that. Not all stories will have a character who changes. Sometimes a character just solves a problem in their world and they make the world better off or worse off or whatever it is. But oftentimes when we have a 3D midpoint, we're going to have one where a character embraces change. On the other hand, if you have a two-dimensional midpoint, the main character will learn a key piece of information or they'll gain a key item that enables them to solve a problem, and they will not change as a person. One final thing I want to point out in regards to midpoint dimensions is that you can have a situation here where the character both embraces change and finds a key item or a key piece of information or whatever it may be to solve a problem. And Godfather 2 is a great example of this. Right here at the midpoint in Godfather 2, Michael Corleone realizes that his brother Fredo has betrayed him. And this is also a moment where Michael embraces the idea of killing his brother as punishment for that betrayal. So I hope this helps. Question of the day, what is your favorite movie and what is the midpoint of that movie? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to support the channel, please pick up a copy of either one of my novels. Bad Parts is great if you like small town horror. It's about people trading away their body parts in order to get healthy again. And if you like thrillers, definitely check out Entry Wounds. It's about a guy who picks up a haunted gun and he cannot put it down until he kills 6 people with it. Also, be sure to check out my other videos, hit the like and subscribe buttons for me, share this video with a friend, and as always, remember to keep on writing.